So are we ever gonna get a trade again? Welcome in or welcome back. That seems really dramatic, but I truly feel like we haven't had one in 3 years. Now, obviously, that's a little hyperbolic, and I don't know if it's the instant gratification, the fact that we're always on our phones and we need something to stimulate us, but we just aren't having the same kind of motion that we've had in years past. And I know for a fact that I'm not the only one that has been thinking about trades, so I have come up for one dream trade for each team in the NBA. Now, a couple things before we start. This is not a trade package video. This is just something that I wish would happen because of team fit or team need or whatever the case is. So I won't be coming up with trade packages or adding draft picks. Those are for people who actually get paid to do it. This is just for me, the basketball fan. And then one last thing. All of these trades are to be viewed through a prism. These are things that are going to happen in isolation. Some of these trades in my own head are connected to each other, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Without further ado, let's jump on into it. We're doing teams alphabetically by city name, and of course, the first team up is the Atlanta Hawks. Now, for the last 8 years or so, the Atlanta Hawks have had a ball-dominant guard who doesn't play a lot of defense despite how much he tries. So I think you kind of need to go the opposite of that. And honestly, there's only one basketball player that comes to mind that could fit that sort of scheme, not to mention the defensive mentality you already have with Dyson Daniels and Nickeil Alexander-Walker. And that guy's Jose Alvarado. I mean, he's not a super expensive guy. He averages about 8 points a game, a steal. He shoots 36% from three on like 4 attempts a game. He would be perfect in that system. And while I don't think a starting five of Jose Alvarado, Dyson Daniels, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Jalen Johnson, and Okongwu could win a championship necessarily, I do think that's a very good building block for the future. Next up is my Boston Celtics, and while we are having a year that I don't think a lot of people, myself included, expected, I do think that we can improve in some areas. And most importantly, we need to think about what happens next year where Jason Tatum fully comes back. What can we add to this team that puts us back into title contention? And you may think that I'm insane, but I think that we need to buy low right now on Jared McCain. Suffice it to say, Jared McCain has struggled this year, but I really, truly don't think that all of that is on him. I think it's more of a fit issue. Tyrese Maxey's an all-star. He is balling out of his mind right now. BJ Edgecombe looks like the real deal, and Jared McCain just drew the short stick. So I think that we could buy the dip on Jared McCain. He can come in, be a secondary ball handler off the bench, be a spark plug scorer, and his shooting will find its level. It will level out. Next, we have the Brooklyn Nets. And this doesn't seem like it's very additive like I want most of these trades to be, but I think it would be good either way, and that guy is Jimmy Butler. Now, of course, Jimmy Butler's hurt. He's making a ton of money. This could go one of two ways for you. He's obviously going to miss about half of next year as well, so either he comes back with something to prove and he goes off, and that kind of fire makes other players want to come to Brooklyn with him, or he doesn't do well. This is the end of Jimmy Butler's career, and his $60 million falls off the books at the end of next year. And because Brooklyn is in a market where you could theoretically bring free agents in, I think that having that kind of cap space would be ultra vital for you, lest we forget that you brought Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving to the same place. Next, we have the Charlotte Hornets, and they have played really well over the last month. I can't sit here and pretend like they haven't. So I think that you need to add some very seasoned talent. I think that you need somebody in that locker room, first and foremost, but also someone who's been there, someone who's been in the playoffs in a high moment. And honestly, I think DeMar DeRozan would be great on this squad. The veteran presence is really the most important thing to me. I think that adding someone like DeMar DeRozan, who's still averaging 20 points a game, by the way, could really help this team out for the future. And who knows, maybe you add DeMar DeRozan, this team goes on more of a run, they're in a solidified playoff spot, you make a little noise in the playoffs, then who knows. Next, we have the Chicago Bulls, and I have a couple friends in my life that are Chicago Bulls fans. Shout out to Super Mario Hoops. Shout out to Justin from J Talks Hoops. I want something good to happen to you guys, so I'm going to give it to you. Donovan Mitchell, welcome to Chicago. And again, lest we forget that these are dream trade scenarios. I don't think that this is very likely to happen, but I want something good to happen to Chicago. And think for a second how good 45 is going to look on somebody other than Michael Jordan or Denzel Valentine. And of course, Donovan Mitchell is playing out of his mind right now, 35-5, like he's on a tear right now. And I think that if you could add him to Matas Buzelis, you can build something for the future that'll be really, really good. And now we have the Cleveland Cavaliers. You're probably angry at me because I took Donovan Mitchell away. Remember that these are only isolated trades. These are only things that are going to happen one way and not the other. So in this scenario, you still do have Donovan Mitchell. And I know that he's had injury issues. I know that he is currently injured right now, but I think that you could take a buy low swing on Matisse Thybulle. I will never give up my stock in Matisse Thybulle. I think that he is an incredible defender. Thinking Basketball actually did a really great video on him and how weird of a defender he is in the best possible way. I think you really need to check that out if you haven't. But even if this doesn't work, if he never gets healthy, if it doesn't work out for the Cavs, his $11 million falls off the books next year. So really, what are you losing? Worst case scenario, he doesn't play and his contract falls off the books. Best case scenario, he really adds to this defense. Next, we have the Dallas Mavericks, and you guys are busy. You have the Cooper Flag of it all. Kyrie Irving's supposed to come back soon. Anthony Davis potentially on the way out. So I want to give you something a little more consistent. I want to give you bench scoring. So welcome Jeremy Grant. Jeremy Grant this year, you may not know, is averaging 19 points a game and shooting 38% from three on like 6 attempts a game. I think that a duo of him and Cooper Flag could be really interesting, at least in the interim, and I would also like to see his connections between guys like Ryan Nembhard, Kyrie Irving when he comes back, and the center group that you all have. Next, we have the Denver Nuggets. There are people that would argue that the Denver Nuggets don't need to add anything because Nikola Jokic is going to come back at some point. Peyton Watson is really taking off. Jamal Murray is going to be an all-star. So you would say that no one needs to help the Denver Nuggets. I'm a very generous person, though, and I'm going to give you Time Lord. There's no such thing as too much center depth in the NBA right now, so when you have a center room of Nikola Jokic, Jonas Valanciunas, and Time Lord, not only is that very good, at least for star power across the board, but it allows you to play different styles of basketball, or the same kind of basketball if you want, because Time Lord could very easily play in the dunker spot the way that Aaron Gordon does, and you wouldn't miss a beat. You would miss out on the three-point shooting, obviously, because Aaron Gordon's having an incredible year for that, but for the dunking, it's still there, and Time Lord is healthy, relatively speaking. And because of his injury history, I don't think that it would take that much draft capital to get him. Next, we have the Detroit Pistons, and boy, what a year you all are having. If I had to put any sort of money on it, I would have to imagine that you guys are going to end up coming out of the East and make it to the NBA Finals. I think that you can solidify that, though, with a Michael Porter Jr. trade. Now, of course, the Michael Porter Jr. that we're seeing right now in Brooklyn is not the same kind of Michael Porter Jr. that you would get in Detroit because he is going to have to sacrifice much like he did in Denver. But even in Denver, he was still a great tertiary piece. And because the Pistons are a very young team, there are going to be nights in the playoffs where you just don't have it, where you aren't experienced yet. Michael Porter Jr. has been there. He has the ability to be the number one guy, and he could carry you to a couple victories in the playoffs by himself. You have the draft picks. You have the salary filler. Make it happen. For the Golden State Warriors, I feel bad for Steph Curry, particularly. I want to give him more firepower, and if they're not going to pull the trigger on a Lowry marketing trade, I think you should go after Karl-Anthony Towns. What you do after that, none of my business, but I think that a duo of him and Steph Curry would be really good. You will have to scheme very defensively around the whole thing, and I think that you would also have to get rid of Draymond Green if you were going to get Cat, but sacrifices have to be made. But 21 points, 11 rebounds, and 36% from three seems pretty good. I think that you would want to add someone like that to Steph Curry this late into his career. You need to give Steph Curry a competitive roster, and I think this is a pretty good first step in that direction. Next, we're heading to Houston, and from potential Warrior to former Warrior, I think Jordan Poole could fix a lot of their problems. The Rockets are good. They have struggled at times, though, particularly with their bench scoring. It is the starting five averaging double digits and then nothing else. And while I think that we could all sit here and agree that Jordan Poole is not having the greatest year of his career, I think that he needs to be able to play serious basketball again because he hasn't been able to do that for quite some time. We've seen what he can do in a system where you are destined to play high-level basketball in the playoffs. If you put him in that environment, I think he will thrive. Because I've seen the real Jordan Poole, and I don't think the real Jordan Poole is averaging 15 points and shooting 33% from three. I think he has a much higher ceiling than that. Next up, we have the Indiana Pacers. And this one's probably my favorite, I think. There are other ones on this list that I like a lot. Obviously, I made the list myself. But this one really caught my eye. And it won't be for this year, but next year, it'll be dangerous. Imagine next year, Tyrese Halliburton comes back. He's even remotely healthy, like 85% of what he was. And you add him, Pascal Siakam, whoever on the bench, a decent center, a decent rim-running center, and then you add Trey Murphy III to this team. Trey Murphy III, really solid defender, great three-point shooter, has the ability to pull it from 35. I would love to see him in this offense. Again, it wouldn't be for this year. For this year, it would be a wash. But honestly, the Pelican season is a wash too, so let's make it happen. Next, we have the LA Clippers, and despite this little run that you've had, your season overall, at least in my opinion, has been pretty disappointing, and you need to start looking toward the future. And there's also a team on this list that we've already talked about that I think needs to move on from their old guard. So LaMelo Ball, welcome home. Of course, I think LaMelo would have wanted to play for the Lakers, but their point guard situation has been shored up for the next decade. So this is a pretty good consolation prize, I think. I have been hypercritical of LaMelo Ball on this account before, and I'm sure I'll do it again. But I also think that a change of scenery is needed for him. Send him back home to LA, and I think that this 19-7-5 could turn into 25-8-8. I think that he would be more comfortable. I think that a fresh start is needed for a lot of people in the NBA, him specifically, and I think that if you build that team around him for the future, it can be at least fun at the bare minimum. Next, we're heading to the other LA team and the Lakers, and how do you build this team around Luka for the future? I think Luka thrives best when you have a 3-and-D wing next to him, and I think Andrew Wiggins is the guy. That is also not very new if you've ever seen some of my videos before. I just think it's the right move. Andrew Wiggins is averaging 16 points. He shoots really well from three. He's a great defender. And also, because the Lakers have been associated with Herb Jones in the past, I think that you can get Andrew Wiggins at a bit of a discount because the Pelicans reportedly want at least 2 first-round picks for Herb Jones, and I think that you can get a better offensive player and a slightly worse defender in Andrew Wiggins for much less than that. Next, we have the Memphis Grizzlies, and you guys have been through it this year, really the last couple of years. I don't think that you guys have ever been healthy, so we're going to have to assume health here. But I think that Mikal Bridges could really help your starting five if healthy. In my head, a playoff roster for the Grizzlies would look like John Morant, Cedric Howard, Mikal Bridges, Jaren Jackson Jr., and Zach Edey. Again, all healthy, but I think that that would be a very fun team to watch and a very defensive-heavy team to watch. I also think that you could tap into Mikal Bridges a little bit, what we saw from him in Brooklyn, where he has the ability to light it up a little bit when John Morant or Jaren Jackson Jr. don't have it going. For the Miami Heat, I also feel bad for you guys because you are always this close from getting the next disgruntled star, Giannis, karl-Anthony Towns, Donovan Mitchell, whoever. So I'm going to give you one here. Zion Williamson. Now, part of that decision that I made for Zion to go to Miami is because I have Heat mutuals in my life. Shout out to Twan Speaks. I think that it would be best for him and the Heat, though. For him specifically, he's been moderately healthy this year, played 31 games at the time we're recording this video, 22 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists. He's pretty efficient. I think that he needs to get the hell away from New Orleans, though. This fresh start thing that I was talking about with LaMelo, it applies directly to Zion as well. And if anyone is going to fix these perceived attitude problems, it's going to be Heat culture. So Zion gets a fresh start, Miami gets their star, and if it goes well, you can start talking about building around him for the foreseeable future. Next, we have the Milwaukee Bucks, and you guys are going through it as well. Again, at the time of this recording, 12 hours ago, it was announced that Giannis is going to miss at least the next 4 to 6 weeks. There are so many rumors about him wanting out. Let's assume that he wants to stay, though, and he's going to be healthy. We have seen Giannis play best when he has a bucket-getting forward next to him, and because you can't have 2022 Chris Middleton, I think you need to go after Zach LaVine. By Zach LaVine's standards, he's having a down year, but is still averaging 20 points a game and shooting almost 40% from 3 on 7 attempts a game. And again, an end-game roster, a playoff roster of Ryan Rollins, AJ Green, Zach LaVine, Giannis, and Miles Turner is really interesting. Next, we have the Timberwolves, and while this isn't the sexiest trade that I could have picked for you, you guys kind of have everything else. You have a 6th Man of the Year candidate in Naz Reid. You have a Defensive Player of the Year candidate in Rudy Gobert. And you have an MVP candidate in Anthony Edwards. So really, you just need to get better around the edges. And the biggest talking point about the Timberwolves this entire year has been about the point guard room. It's not great. It's not very youthful. It needs a little work. And I said this the first time to my buddy Riley as a bit, but I really can't stop thinking about it. I think that Javon Carter would be the best addition for this team. Don't look at any of the tape from the Chicago Bulls years. I don't know what's going on over there, but he has fallen out of favor essentially since day one. I need you to go look at tape for his last year in Milwaukee and see how good he was. And he's been on ice this entire time. It's not like he's lost a step. You put a starting 5 of Javon Carter, Anthony Edwards, Jaden McDaniels, whoever at the 4, whether that's Naz Reid or Julius Randle, and Rudy Gobert, who's scoring on that team? Nobody. I will admit my biases here. I love Javon Carter. I'm the Javon Carter guy. I just want what's best for him. I also think this would help the Timberwolves, though. So please make it happen, A-Rod. Next, we have the Pelicans, and there have been some ebbs and flows in the season, but really what you all need is more bench production. And I think Kelly Oubre is the guy. I think Kelly's having a really underrated season for that 76ers team. He's averaging 15 points a game, 5 rebounds, also shooting 38% from 3 on 5 attempts a game. And again, assuming everybody's healthy, I would love to see a bench duo, a bench forward duo of him and Saddiq Bey and how quickly they can light it up. Next, we have the New York Knicks. And I didn't think of this originally. Shout out to Olivia in the Discord. Jaren Jackson Jr. really does need to be a nick. More specifically, New York needs to go back to this grit and grind mentality, this defense first mentality. Now, in my head, this is part of a larger trade where you do give up on Karl-Anthony Towns, but I think a starting five of Jalen Brunson, OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges, Jaren Jackson Jr., and Mitchell Robinson would be really fun to watch and defensively stout. This is the second time that I've done this inadvertently in this video, but we just talked about Mitchell Robinson on the Knicks. How about we send him to Oklahoma City? Again, sort of like the Nuggets, center depth is never a bad thing. So adding Mitchell Robinson to Isaiah Hartenstein and Jalen Williams, I think would be really good. Also, for the Thunder, his contract falls off the books next year. So if it doesn't work out, no harm, no foul. It also gives the ability for the Thunder to play above the rim. It gives SGA a lob threat. I think it would be really good for everybody involved. The Orlando Magic is up next, and halfway through the season, we still really haven't addressed the shooting issue. Shout out to Nate from my Discord and El Magico. I really feel bad for you guys, but I'm going to give you some help. Welcome Derry Bird, AJ Green to Orlando. Don't know how many Bucks games you've watched this year. There's not a whole lot to talk about outside of Giannis. But AJ Green is having himself a year, shooting almost 44% from three on like 7 attempts a game. The Magic need bench production. That's not a secret. So when Desmond Bane goes to the bench and you can replace him with AJ Green, I think that it allows your offense to have some sort of continuity to where you don't miss a beat. I think that he is desperately needed in Orlando. Next, we have the 76ers, and I think that they are also performing a little better than what most people expected. I do think that you need to have an eye toward the future, post Paul George, post Joel Embiid. So I think adding exciting pieces that work well with your already existing talent is very important. And it's not working in LA for John Collins, so I think that he needs to head to Philly so he can team up with VJ Edgecombe and Tyrese Maxey. He's obviously a lob threat. I would love to see a pick and roll game between either of those two and John Collins. He's also a three-point shooting threat. He's shooting 43% from three, albeit on 3 attempts a game. Now, he certainly doesn't fix all of the problems, and you're going to have to address the Paul George and Joel Embiid hole that will eventually be left, but I think this is a pretty good piece to add. Speaking of teams that have had a better year than I expected, the Suns really only need more bench punch. Like, you have great pieces. You have pieces that are overperforming. I think you need some more scoring, though, and I think Saddiq Bey is a guy for you. Saddiq Bey plays about 30 minutes a game and averages 16 points a game. He needs to work on his three-point shooting. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like he doesn't, but I think that he could be a great bench player for you guys. The Blazers are very much a team that isn't ready right now, but they will be in the future. So right now you need to add more veteran pieces to teach the youth, and I think Tobias Harris would be a great pickup for you all. Because for the Pistons right now, he's a great role player. 14 points a game, relatively good efficiency, but I think the experiences that he can pass on to the next generation would be great. Not to mention the fact that you already have Drew Holiday, Damian Lillard, and Jeremy Grant. I think that adding veterans is never a bad thing, and eventually his contract falls off the books. Next, we have the Sacramento Kings, and you get your guy, I think, at least reportedly. The Jonathan Kuminga saga is over. In my ideal world, Golden State trade you Jonathan Kuminga so this whole thing can be put behind us. And I think that Jonathan Kuminga has the ability to excel. It's definitely not going to be in Golden State, though, because Steve Kerr hates him, and I'm pretty sure he hates Steve Kerr, too. He needs to work on his efficiency, and he needs to work on his playmaking, but I think that his raw ability is enough to get excited over. And if you're going to move past DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine and Domantas Sabonis and all these guys, I think that Jonathan Kuminga is at least worth trying something out for. Next, we have the San Antonio Spurs. Shout out to the Baseline Bums. I'm going to bless you guys just this one time. You guys have been pretty unlucky over the last couple of years, so I'm going to give you Herb Jones. Now, of course, some of that's a bit. I do think that when you're trotting out Jeremy Sohan, and to varying degrees of success, he defends well, there are nights where he clearly just does not have it. So I think that you need to supplement that with someone who always has it on the defensive end, and Herb Jones is one of those guys. Now, there are obviously some things to figure out with Devin Vassell and Keldon Johnson, and what are you going to do with Carter Bryant? It's really not my job. That's your job now. So I'm going to give you Herb Jones, and honestly, I think we can all agree that the Spurs were better when Bruce Bowen was playing for them. So I just gave you a Bruce Bowen clone. In the home stretch here, we're heading to the 6 in Toronto. I think that I'm going to lean into some of the reports that I've heard, and Domantas Sabonis is your next new star. Now, I don't want to get this confused. Brandon Ingram is very clearly your guy. I think that that is the correct move. I think that Domantas Sabonis needs to be an additive piece, a more supportive role in this offense, but he does open up offenses for every team that he's a part of. And this team is already pretty good defensively, so it's not like adding him is going to make you plummet to the 28th worst defense in the entire league. So adding him, opening up your offense, being able to run DHOs with him and Scotty Barnes and Brandon Ingram and RJ Barrett and whoever would be so fun to watch. We saw it with those light the beam Sacramento teams. He is a good offensive player. That's what he does. So adding him to this very young team could be really fun to watch. Third time now I've done this inadvertently. How about that? Third time's the charm. The Jazz, I think, would really benefit from having RJ Barrett on your team. Because as it stands right now, either Cody Williams or Ace Bailey just don't have it. And that's fine, by the way. They're young players. They're not supposed to have it yet. But if you want to have someone who bridges the gap a little bit until they're ready, I think RJ Barrett could be the guy. He does seem like he's the odd man out in Toronto. So why doesn't Trader Danny work his magic, probably end up getting a draft pick for RJ Barrett, and then see what he can be in that offense? And if it works out, and the team starts vibing well, and RJ is ready to take this team to the next level where you're starting competing for a playoff spot, I think that's pretty good. Or he's a stopgap until Ace Bailey's ready. Either way, I think this is a win. And then the last one here for the Wizards. I think I have to apologize to Cloud 2K in particular, but I think it's for the best. The Wizards are not very good. That is not a secret, but I think they have a very bright future, not even including Trae Young. If you're just talking about Trey Johnson, Keyshawn George, and Alex Sarr, I think that's a very good trio to build around in the future. The team, however, does need veterans. And I think just based on the team structure and how defensive heavy it is, especially with guys like Alex Sarr and Bilal Coulibaly, I think you need a defensive mind on the team. So I think it's Draymond Green's time to head to Washington. Now, I will be fully transparent here on this last one. Part of that is because I want Draymond Green to suffer. He thinks that it's bad to play with Steph Curry right now and be winning all the time, or at least most of the time. I think that you should see what it's like to lose all of the time. But outside of that, I think that he could really open up Alex Sarr's game, especially being that connective piece, the short roll, being able to play make from his position. And again, the defensive ability that he has at this late stage in his career is going to be super valuable to pass on to the next generation. Will Trae Young and Draymond Green kill each other? Potentially. But it could be really cool as well. And that's the end of it. All 30 teams, I gave you one dream trade, at least in my opinion. How do you think I did? Did I nail it? Did I overshoot it? Did I screw you? Let me know down in the comments below. While you're down there, check my description. Got a link tree with all of my socials. Twitter, Blue Sky, Instagram, TikTok. I'm literally everywhere. I also have a Discord community that I would love for you to be a part of. But that's going to do it for me today. Be kind. Tell somebody you love them. And I'll see you in the next one.
Barely scraping by. Trying to stop puffing. I'm trying to be one of the greats.